Hello and welcome to our Move Minnesota webinar, How Two New Metro Bus Lines Could Change How You Get Around St. Paul. My name is Max Singer. I use he, him pronouns, and I am the Mobility and Research Coordinator at Move Minnesota. It's my pleasure today to have with me to present Cody Olson and Nasser Mussa of Metro Transit to present on the B and G lines. A couple notes of order before we get into our fantastic presentations today. I'm going to offer a welcome and introduce you to Move Minnesota as well as our presenters. Today's meeting will be recorded. As you may have heard the sound prompt, we will be receiving a presentation on the B line, soon to be complete, the G line, soon to have a complete plan, and then we will have a closing. There will be time for questions on both of these presentations after their segments, but participants are muted, so I encourage you to please insert your questions into the chat, and I will relay them to our fabulous presenters here. With that, and so I'd like to introduce folks to Move Minnesota. Move Minnesota is a nonprofit organization based right here in St. Paul that leads the movement for an equitable and sustainable transportation system that puts people first. We're passionate about connecting communities, ending the climate crisis, and expanding access to jobs and resources, improving access for Move Minnesotans of all ages, races, incomes, and abilities. And very specifically, we connect folks to transportation and transit where it works well and fight to improve where it can work better. In St. Paul, that means being a resource, connecting folks to transportation options, whether it's new arterial bus rapid transit lines, and as well as options for biking, walking, carpooling, and various other options to help people get to where they need to go, whether it's for a commute at their employer or trips to shopping, medical, education. We work with businesses, residents, and community around sustainable transportation choices right here in St. Paul. And that is what brings us to today's presentation. We are fortunate to have a robust and growing metro network of fast, frequent, all-day transit. And in St. Paul, that network is growing with these B and G lines. They promise to change the way we get around St. Paul, funded through a combination of a local sales tax expansion, as well as federal funding through the IIJA, as well as other sources for improving how we get around. The B and G line, particularly exciting for St. Paul as they will intersect, creating a network effect. These are not only bus improvements in isolation that improve the frequency, comfort, and directness of the ride, but will also work as a network effect, given that these lines connect in downtown St. Paul. And with that, it's my pleasure to hand over the presentation to Cody Olson. And after that, it'll be Nasser Mussa to present on the B&G line. So I will stop sharing my screen and Cody will take over.
All right. Is that looking good, Max? All right, perfect. Hello, everyone. My name is Cody Olson. I really appreciate you having both myself and Nasser out to talk to you over this lunch hour today. Really looking forward to sharing more information on the Metro B line and Metro G line, two new bus rapid transit routes that are really going to change the way that people get around both east-west and north-south in the city of St. Paul. And so kind of on the first slide here, you have kind of a map of our entire future Metro bus rapid transit network. The B line is the kind of horizontal one, the one that goes east-west. And the G line is the north-south one. but they both have those red boxes around them just to kind of indicate where in this system we're going to be kind of talking about. So first we'll be talking about the Metro B line. Here is just a really nice, well, the shot is in Minneapolis. I think it's a really nice way of showing, kind of some of the changes that are really coming with this route. This is a section of East Lake Street that was built last year that includes bus only lanes, that includes the new station. Just a really big changes coming with this route that I just wanted to preview via this photo. So for those unfamiliar, what the Metro B line is, and this slide does have a map showing the full route all the way from Lake in France on the west end, all the way to downtown St. Paul on the east end. The B line is a bus rapid transit line that will provide faster, more reliable transit service on the Route 21 corridor along Lake Street, Marshall Avenue, and Selby Avenue. The 21, if you're familiar with it and if you've ridden it, it's a workhorse route. Really, there are so many things on the Route 21. There are so many resources. There are so many places that people need to go. There are so many connections to different lines. Both now and in the future, the B line will connect to the green line at 2 separate points. It connects to the blue line. It connects to the orange line, the future E line, and then the A line and the D line and the future G line as well. So there, oh, and the gold line. How could I forget that as well? Just pretty much any of our major transit routes this line intersects with at this point. It's a huge connector for a lot of people. Pre-pandemic, this route was serving about 10,000 daily rides. Those numbers have dropped a bit, obviously, but it's throughout the pandemic and afterwards, it's been one of our strongest lines in terms of maintaining ridership and serving people. Some of the facts, while this is in Minneapolis, really it affects the entire line end to end, is that on Lake Street, buses are carrying approximately 20% of the people traveling on Lake Street, but make up less than 2% of the vehicle traffic. So it's a really key way that people are moving around Lake Street, but they don't take up a lot of space on it. And on Lake Street, as well as in St. Paul, while the 21 is operating, buses are moving less than half of the time that they're actually in service, whether that's people, taking time to pay before they get on or being stuck in traffic. There's a number of reasons that lead to the Route 21 actually being stopped more than it is moving. So the goal of the B line is to make the service for the Route 21 in this corridor approximately 20% faster than the current travel time by stopping less often. As you can see on this map, this is the entirety of the B line stops. So rather than stopping every block or so, it stops approximately every half mile. It'll also allow customers to board faster by paying before they get on the bus at brand new stations that include ticket vending machines, fare card validators, or allow people still to use digital passes purchased on their phone in the app. And then in some sections in St. Paul, there's a section on Marshall Avenue between Cretin Avenue and the river, where the bus will run in a bus-only lane. There's also significantly more bus-only lanes in Minneapolis. The only reason there aren't more in St. Paul is because generally the bus is already running in the one and only traffic lane, like on Selby Avenue. And a little bit more about how the B line will be different than the Route 21. So kind of 3 main things are changing with the B line from the Route 21. The first being service. So the B line will provide frequent service all day on weekdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. It gets a bit of a better schedule than the Route 21. You're going to see more buses. They're going to be more reliable and extended later into the evening and earlier into the morning. Route 21 won't be fully going away with the launch of the B line. It'll still operate every 30 minutes, but the places that it run will be restricted just to Lake Street between Hennepin and Hiawatha. Still to serve, kind of that local need, those stops that people may not be able to travel the quarter to half mile to a new stop. And then additionally in St. Paul, there's a new local bus plan called the Route 60 that would run every 30 minutes along Selby Avenue and connect to the Midway area. It's something that we heard pretty heavily in our initial engagement back in 2019, that Selby Avenue is a pretty key corridor for elders in particular and people with mobility issues. And so we're kind of scheming up some new items that will help maintain that connection from Selby Avenue to the Midway. As I mentioned, there are bus-only lanes. In many places, the B line, rather than pulling over, will be doing what we call in-lane stops. So rather than pulling over to the side of the street and having issues merging back into traffic, the bus actually stops in lane, traffic stops behind it, and then it boards passengers, lets passengers off, and takes off. So it's a much faster process, helps keep our buses on time. Another change that you'll see with the B line that's a little bit different than the Route 21 are the differences between stops and stations. So right now, the Route 21 stops at stops. Sometimes they have a shelter, sometimes they don't, sometimes it's just a pole in the ground. But every Beeline station will have both a brand new shelter with heat, light, security cameras, ticket vending machines, trash and recycling, benches, bike racks, and a pylon that tells you real time when the next bus is coming. And so these stations are a pretty significant investment and a really nice way to provide a service to our riders that they can feel more comfortable at and more reliably access our system. And then one of the biggest changes you'll see is the route. The 21 is now already extended to France Avenue in Minneapolis. It used to end at the Uptown Transit Center, but now it passes past Bde-Makaska all the way to France Avenue. The B-Line will continue that extension when it opens. Additionally, another change in Minneapolis is that the bus will stay on Lake and Lagoon Avenue versus using the Uptown and Chicago Lake Transit Centers. Both the Chicago Avenue stops and the Hennepin Avenue stops are both actually on Lake Street and Lagoon Avenue in Hennepin's case, rather than going into those transit centers, making turns and taking a little bit extra time. The biggest change you'll see in St. Paul is the elimination of the jog up to University Avenue on Snelling Avenue. So when the bus is, in the direction coming from Minneapolis, as it's coming along Marshall Avenue, it would formerly turn left on Snelling Avenue and go up to University and then come down on Hamlin. Now, as it approaches Snelling Avenue, it will take a right and turn directly onto Selby Avenue. I go back to the map here to kind of show that a bit. It's right there near the Snelling and Dayton stop. So we'll share that stop with the Metro A line directly, and then continue on Selby Avenue towards downtown St. Paul. So that's probably the biggest change in the St. Paul section. That really took quite a bit of time to go up to University and was kind of one of the biggest pinch points on the line in terms of keeping it on time and keeping it reliable. So the timeline, as Max mentioned, the B line is coming soon and we're really excited. The line will open in June 2025, which is going to come a lot sooner than everybody thinks. This year, all the construction is currently complete in St. Paul. We're kind of completing construction in Minneapolis for the rest of kind of the season into the end of the year here. Later on this year and early next year, we'll really begin starting to advertise this line and doing some rider education efforts along the line, talking to people about the change that's coming up, letting them know the difference between using the Route 21 and BRT, and just getting people excited for the launch of this line. In spring, our contractor will be getting final things installed like ticket vending machines, getting all the stations ready for actual service, and just getting things buttoned up so that we can launch the line in June 2025. Our agency will also be pretty busy in March, getting ready to launch the Gold Line in St. Paul. So there's a lot going on next year. So things will take a little bit to get us to June. And just wanted to kind of, highlight, we're very proud and very excited to have gotten a lot of the work done in St. Paul in 2023. We built 24 station foundations. We installed 24 shelters. We either fully or partially rebuilt 12 different intersections. We restriped roads, and we installed a full fiber network between all of our stations so that they can reliably have security cameras, Metro Transit police call buttons, and ticket vending machines, and the pylons that show real time when the next bus is coming. So these stations, if you're familiar and you've been using the 21, they're currently in use. They don't have all of the function yet. Like I said, that will come in spring, but they will be fully ready for that June 2025 launch. If you are interested in kind of learning more about the Beeline, I'll be sharing this presentation with Max as well at the end, so you can access the link directly. But on the main project website, we also have this interactive map that you can kind of zoom in on, take a look at all the future changes that kind of currently exist or will exist very shortly in a few weeks as we finish up things in Minneapolis. But it's a really good way to kind of see the bird's eye view of all the different changes that this project has made in both cities and along this entire line and in this corridor. And really, we are really coming towards the finish line. And so if you want to stay informed on, how things are going, construction updates are mostly ending for the season, and we'll be moving to monthly newsletter updates, just highlighting the progress as we go through the winter and building excitement for the launch of the line. You can sign up for this newsletter and find more information at our main project website. If you do have questions about construction, we do have our construction hotline still active, or you can reach out to me. Again, my name is Cody, and you can reach us at the project email at beeline@metrotransit.org, and then my phone number is there as well. And happy to, at this point, kind of answer any questions anyone might have.
All right. Thank you so much, Cody. Super exciting stuff. And I have been gathering some of the questions from the chat. I think I'll start out with a relatively simple one. Obviously, currently, bus operators collect fares as well as handle all sorts of other things, questions. Given that the fare will be happening on the platform rather than the bus, how will you ensure that riders are paying the fare as well as handling some of those other operator duties?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So with these BRT lines, we kind of refer to them as a train on wheels, essentially. And so if you're familiar with how the Green Line operates, if you're familiar with how the A Line operates, yeah, again, people are expected to have paid their fares at the station before they board the bus. The drivers are not responsible in any way for checking fares on these new lines. And so the responsibility for checking fares really falls on at times Metro Transit Police, but more and more on our trip agents who are out currently mostly just on light rail, but will be expanding that service to BRT lines either in this fall or in the early winter, depending on staffing levels.
Awesome. And we have a couple questions about Route 60. There are some folks curious if Route 60 is active now, and if not, perhaps when, as well as will Route 60 cover the entire section of University and Snelling that the 21 did, as well as what was the factors in deciding the frequency of that Route 60?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And some of those we don't have a final answer yet. The 60s still kind of in its planning stages. Our service development department is still looking at some specifics on it, both kind of in the lens of the Beeline as well as in the lens of our Network Now project, which a quick plug for that as well. We have released our Network Now plan, which goes over a number of different lines. So if there are services you're interested in Metro Transit outside of the B and G line, I would encourage you to check out our Network Now project as well, where we're taking a really holistic look at the entire system. And we just released a revised plan for that and are seeking feedback on it. So first off, want to do that plug because the Route 60 is considered part of that as well as the Beeline project. But in terms of when it will open, it would open with the Beeline in June 2025. So it would open the same day. It is not currently in service. The 21 is still serving that area. It's still serving the area, the area north of Snelling and Marshall. It's still going up to the University Avenue area. When the Beeline launches, would be the same day that route launches and the Route 21 ends in this area. And in terms of the full service area, they're currently looking at the area between Selby and Hamlin and around Selby and Rice or so.
Thanks, Cody. All right. And then I'm going to try to group these last two questions as one. You described these Beeline buses as trains on wheels. And so there's a question as to what type of buses will be used as it comes to electric buses, hybrid, or conventional internal combustion engines. And if there's anything different about these buses compared to other buses in the system, perhaps the bike racks on the buses?
So on these buses, I don't believe we're getting the new bike racks that can hold fat bikes. I don't believe that these are programmed for the BRT buses yet. They're still kind of testing that out on some different routes. But in general, these buses are brand new buses. They are internal combustion buses. They are not electric or hybrid. That was mainly with the C-Line project that we did electric buses, but these are currently scheduled to be internal combustion buses. They will be brand new, so they will be significantly more efficient than some of the buses that we currently have in service. They're a little bit larger in the passenger area. They also have a bit more space in the area where people with disabilities, people with children need to board, and there's a very different type of securing system for someone who's in a wheelchair mobility device at the front as well.
Super. Okay. I want to shift gears soon to the G-Line presentation, but I believe one more question on the B-Line. So as you mentioned, the goal is for it to be 20% faster. And it is coming, in June. I'm curious if there's any, and as well as bus lanes haven't been installed on Marshall, as you mentioned. Is there any clue yet as to how fast it may be? Like any rough benchmarks, early results as like how fast it could be to get from like Midtown Minneapolis to Allianz Field, or say Selby and Snelling to downtown St. Paul? Is there any early info on that or schedule development?
Right now, no, we have not done the testing. We need to wait until construction's done to be able to kind of get buses out there and test in kind of the right conditions. So right now we're still at about that 20% number. Late winter, early spring of next year will be when we can start that testing and really get kind of those service times down and understand the time savings that all these new changes really are having.
Super. Thanks, Cody. If you have any more to add, please do. And otherwise, I think we're ready to switch over to Nasser. So thank you for presenting. And if folks continue to have questions about the B-Line, the G-Line, various things happening with the network, continue to include them in the chat.
Absolutely. And appreciate everyone's time and the questions. Yeah, if anything else comes up before the end, happy to answer, but I will pass it over to my colleague Nasser now.
All right, can I have the screen control? I don't think I do have a screen control. Or let me share my screen if that is okay. Do you see what I'm sharing there?
Yes, it is currently in slide mode, not presenter mode, but we can see your screen.
All right, that
there
good?
We go.
All right. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Nasser and I go by he, him. I am one of the outreach coordinator with the focus on the bus rapid transit. And I focus on two projects. One is the G line and one is the Metro F line. The G line is between St. Paul, West St. Paul and Little Canada. And the F line is between downtown Minneapolis to the Blaine Norristown Transit Center. But today I'll talk about the Metro G line, and some of the information that Cody already talked about, the quality of the BRT might repeat, but I will not take too much of your time. I'll just kind of run through and then see if there's any questions. So the Metro G line, as I said, will connect between Little Canada and West St. Paul, primarily running on Rice and Robert Street. And this is really very important in growing metro network because it will connect, like I said, a lot of transit hubs, including the train, other bus rapid transits in downtown, and it will expand the service that exists now outside of some of the local services are limited to specifically weekend and evening led hours, but this like any other BRT, this will expand the service weekday and weekend, and it's more faster, reliable, and provide the speedy process. Specifically, I'll talk a little bit about how this provide that, how this accomplish that speed in terms of moving through multiple intersections and how that incorporate into the planning. I'll talk about that a little in a minute. So the G line for some of you who live in St. Paul is just upgrade of the existing Route 62 and 68. Route 62 and 68 provide service on Rice and Robert. So this will be replacing the existing 62 and 68. And we're still planning to figure out what is the local service looks like once we open the G line. So we don't have every answer to the what the local service might look like. Probably it may be every 30 minutes, every 40 minutes, every hour. We still figuring out that part. One of the important elements that I kind of really, Cody already talked about this, but I think the most important element that makes the BRT much different than local services, the infrastructure, high quality infrastructure that comes with it, specifically the station, and particularly this is very important in terms of the speed, spacing the station between 2 to 3 stations per mile is really important. If you look at the existing local buses, some of the buses really stop every block, and that does not get people from point A to point B in the time that they need to go fast. It takes a lot of time, and it is quite significant amount of timing for someone who uses the bus every day from one point to another point to get around, and it takes a lot of time. So, but this one, because it stops at very limited stop. The stations are very well spaced, and as we plan for the stations, we're very conscious about where the station should fit, and how do we align with existing ridership, and also taking into consideration about the destination itself, and also the connecting transit, and as well as people with disabilities as well. So that is really very important as we plan for this. So the Metro G line was identified in 2021, and we released in the draft corridor plan in 2023, collecting a lot of public feedback. And now we are here releasing the recommended corridor plan 2024. So this is basically kind of like a planning in the planning process. And once we complete this process, which expected to end sometime by the end of this year, in the winter, probably before early next year or the end of this year, we plan to finalize, have a final corridor plan approved by the council, and that will allow the project to officially transition from the planning phase. So that is where a lot of specific things happen when the engineering phase starts. So as you can see here, the G line will be constructed in 2 phases. One, the northern part, which is between Little Canada and downtown St. Paul, and the other part will be south of downtown, which is from downtown to Dakota County Northern Service Center. So this is the reason why this kind of constructed in 2 phases is that we're coordinating with a lot of existing other projects that are planned to be construct a lot of road safety improvement in this corridor that include Rice Street Reconstruction Project, and also Roberts Street Reconstruction Project, which is led by MnDOT. So there will be a lot of coordination with these projects for reason to reduce the construction impact, because a lot of people concerned about, when one project complete the construction, then the other one comes in and, create another construction disruption. So a lot of businesses specifically concerned with that, and we are conscious about that and try to coordinate as much as possible with multiple projects that exist in the corridor. That is the reason behind kind of staging into different phases. So the G-line recommended corridor plan identifies station for both of these phases. We do not go through multiple phases to identify station for one phase and another phase, but the station location identification will be completed during this recommended corridor plan planning phase. What do we consider as we plan for this project? The elements that we take into consideration as we plan the station placement. The G-line will include 32 station locations, and also, as I said earlier, spacing between the station is very important because that really improves the speed and reliability. And then also we target far side, the station. We try to be as much as possible have the station as far side, because that really allows the bus to go through the traffic light and then pick up people and then just keep moving on, instead of, because some of the local bus stops that you can see now, it's on near side, which means the bus comes to stop, pick up people, and wait for the light to turn on and then move on again. So I call that double stop, which means it's kind of really difficult. So by avoiding the traffic light and having the station on the far side, it really improves the speed, because you don't have to wait for the traffic light, and you just pick up people and then move on. So the other thing that we also consider as we plan the station location, the existing ridership. Like I said, but this is very important because you don't want to place the station in a location where the ridership is very low, and then make people walk longer than they should be in the places where more ridership is very frequent, and we look at that as well. And also connecting service is important. Also, public feedback is another thing that we look at as we place the station. Land use is also another thing, and also availability right of the way is also another element that we look at as we plan, because we coordinate with city, county, and as well as MnDOT. So these are really very important. So the recommended corridor plan includes a lot of information, as you can see the document and explore. I will share the link with you. So it includes the station location, the platform location within the station intersection. It also includes information about how that location was determined, because sometimes some people just wonder, hey, how did you make that decision? And the document answers that question. It also describes the planning considerations, such as project coordination with agency partners, bus priority treatment. It really includes a lot of information that is very helpful to answer any question that might come up as people just go through this process and try to understand how we make a decision about specific station locations. But the specific space where the machine will go, where the bench will go, where the shelter will go, will be determined during the design phase, and that is where the engineering will come in and say, hey, here is where the bench should be, and here's where other elements should be. And then we closely work with the community, because sometimes when we place the shelter a certain location in front of business, sometimes people may say, well, you're blocking my view, you're blocking my business. And we work with the business and just making sure that we place the shelter, accordingly, and we closely coordinate with the business owners and property owners, and work with them in any way possible when it is possible. So it also includes the specific aerial image that shows exactly what that intersection looks like, And it also talks about the coordinated project at that intersection. If there's any coordinated project, it will mention that. And also, pedestrian cycle, transit access. It really has a lot of information. And also, most importantly, it also looks at if there's any parking elimination at that station intersection. Sometimes, obviously, the most challenging for business is to just find out that their a parking space is eliminated, and we do our due diligence working with businesses and making sure that if the parking is eliminated, we proactively engage them and work with them. Also do our analysis if there is any alternative spaces available, or if there is any alternative options available for placing the station, and also really do a lot of analysis in terms of like why the station is placed there and why the other alternative locations are not viable or support the project goal. And this is part of kind of really what the planning process would look like, engaging people in the ground and making sure that they understand the process and all that stuff. So like I said, I think the most challenging for me specifically when I work, when I engage people, just really informing them about the parking space, because sometimes people just like idle eye on this parking space and you're taking away this. But we do very deep analysis about, like I said, how other spaces are not supportive of the project goal, and justify why the station should be there. So during the comment period, we do a lot of public engagement, and I spend a lot of time out in the community, doing presentation, door knocking, and the most important conversation that I always have with people is, door knocking, one-on-one, talking to businesses. So during the draft corridor plan, we had door knocked 170 businesses, specifically within station neighbors, and we had a lot of comments, concerns, support, excitement, and not excitement. You name it, we had a lot of all kinds of information from people that we had a conversation with. We sent out information to the G-Line subscriber, and also send out the postcard. As you can see, we sent out nearly 60,000 go-to card users received email, and also had one virtual open house, just in the form of like people dropping in. I think the most important out of this, like out of all this that we have done, postcard is also important. Posting the information at the bus stop is also very important. And also door knocking is also the most important conversation that I really remember the most, because one-on-one conversation is one of the most like driving force for people to understand the project and also get involved and give us feedback. Here the 78% of the respondents like the G-Line project, and also 71% respondents expressed that they will use the G-Line once the project is open. And I think this is really quite significantly overwhelmingly, I would say, high support for the project, because sometimes you'll find a mix of like, some may be like, hey, the station is too far from me, I'm not going to use it, or now I use the local bus right in front of my house, and that requires me to walk few blocks down the road, and I'm not going to use that. So, but the G-Line, I think it has really very significant support. Be using it, and also like the station placement. That's the most kind of a highlight that we heard from people. Yes, there are some concerns about the park and other small elements, but I think overall there's a significant support for the project. So we are collecting public feedback right now, and we appreciate if you can promote this information, and I will share with you. And the comment period is open until October 25. But if you have obviously we close the survey on October 25. But if you find yourself like, oh my God, I should have sent my feedback by October 25. But if you find yourself like a little bit behind, and then, like maybe a day or two, you could definitely send us email and we will incorporate that. It's not the end of the world. So, but you can sign up for the project update. And also, if you have any question or comments, you can email us, explore the project website, and give us a feedback. We really appreciate any feedback that you think it is how we make a decision. This is very important. And with that, thank you. And I stand for any questions.
Thank you, Nasser. Yeah, I think some folks may be mulling some questions. Continue to put them in the chat. But to start things out, I will ask, in this phase of engagement, what kind of feedback is most useful? Obviously, there's certain things seem to be pretty much decided, like where the line will end and like what street it will run on. But what kind of feedback? Where can folks most shape the project and help you gather feedback that you can consider in this final plan? That's the question.
Yeah, so that's a really very good question. The most helpful, or the most like really good feedback, the most common feedback that we hear is about the station placement. Is like, is this reasonable for people to just walk between, this station and that station? So the reasonable spacing is also kind of something that a lot of people talk about. Is this station far away, or is it really why not like at this intersection? Why at that intersection? There are more businesses here. There are more businesses there. Why not here? Why not there? So we heard on all kinds of really feedback about this station spacing and the station placement. That is the most common. And the other thing that we also heard from the people is that how they can have the clear picture of what is the local service look like. What is we open the G line, and how would they be able to know now what that looks like? We're trying to figure out that part and to provide information as much as possible, but that is still ongoing process. So I hope that answered the question.
It does, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll kind of throw in another question. As you mentioned, local service. I know a lot of Move Minnesota supporters are transit riders. As you discussed, this project specifically is happening along large road reconstructions. How would you recommend folks keep up to date with local service changes, whether it's around the construction projects or around the G line? Is there any resources that you would direct people to?
It is, I think the most important thing that they can do is to sign up for the G line project here. If you subscribe, any changes will be, like any update, whenever the G line update available, we provide. And then if that also impacts the local service, we definitely provide that. So the other way, I think, like general Metro Transit, if there is a temporary change to the local service, sometimes Metro Transit, frequently do some changes to local service, but Metro Transit website always, provide that update very frequently as they do that change. But in relation to the G line project will be the best way to get update information that, related to the G line project impact.
All right. Well, I am going to continue to invite folks if they have any final questions. But we are approaching time here, so I'm going to close up this webinar here with some final information on how we can use these future lines. So you should be able to see my screen and see the slideshow. Super, yes. So we're super excited about both the B and G line as they help create an equitable and sustainable transportation system that puts people first from how fast these buses do to get from uptown to Selbydale, or people first in helping decide where these stations are located. So this is why we're super excited and very grateful for Cody and Nasser here to present on these projects as well as answer questions. A little bit more about using transit in the Twin Cities, whether you are a frequent rider or curious about the transit coming to your neighborhood. I consider it my duty to help folks know their options and the resources available. Metro Transit's Trip Planner or your preferred navigation app is a great way to use transit. The changes will be reflected on these apps and systems, and can help you plan your trip, especially one on a new line as it comes into service. As it comes to fares, it has come up already as how the B&G line will work with fares purchased off board with ticket machines on platforms. But if you are super excited and you're ready to ride the 21, it's worth and 21 and see the new infrastructure before the B line comes. Fares can be purchased aboard buses, the Metro Transit app, and you can get a go-to card pictured above at the Metro Transit stores in downtown Minneapolis and St. Paul, as well as all sorts of neighborhood retailers, including many, and I would say most, grocery stores in the Twin Cities. So there is ways to have fares at your disposal so you can ride the system now or in the future. And this is exciting for our experienced transit riders. There is backup and other options that you may not know about. I am always excited to plug the Guaranteed Ride Home program. Folks don't know it, but it's very cool. If you make a regular trip, whether it's to work or to school, and you register it beforehand on the Metro Transit Guaranteed Ride Home page, Metro Transit, if you miss your last bus, if it's too late, or if you have an emergency that you need to attend to health or childcare, or if you bike, if the weather changes, if you carpool, if your carpool buddy has an emergency, any trip, so it includes transit trips, but also biking trips, walking trips, carpool. If you register beforehand, the Guaranteed Ride Home program can reimburse you for trips taken on ride-hailing apps such as Uber or Lyft or the other local apps that are now out there. The Guaranteed Ride Home program is a great option to ensure that trip. And if transit is not an option for you now, there is a Metro-wide carpool matching program, also hosted within Metro Transit. Two great resources that I always encourage folks to check out, as that people may not know about them. And finally, I am plugging Move Minnesota. Join us for future Move Minnesota events and presentations. We do community events. If you are a St. Paul bike rider, we do a summer bike ride series around infrastructure in St. Paul, whether it's new or unfamiliar. We do informational and engagement events such as this one today, and we will be doing more webinars in the future. And if you are passionate about connecting to transit, connecting your neighbors to transit, volunteer with us. We have a volunteer team focused exclusively on St. Paul to connect folks to transit and help make sure that transit is as best as it can be. Yes, so this is a final opportunity for questions. Thank you all for tuning in. This is my contact information. If you have any questions about the webinar, you can email me at maxs@movemn.org. You can check out our website, movemn.org, for future programming opportunities, as well as webinars. And a final note that this presentation was presented with funding provided by the Met Council and Federal Highway Administration through the Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Improvement Program. And with that, a final call for questions. I will include in the chat a couple links. All right. Seeing no more questions, I thank everyone for logging on today. Thank you, Nasser and Cody, for presenting. Have an excellent Wednesday.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. We appreciate it.